All right, everyone, it is, whoop, we on, it doesn't work.
Here, we can share.
Okay. Is it the battery or you want a different one? Do we have another one?
We can,
Another pack there?
we can share. I talk very quietly.
Do you?
I talk pretty loud anyway.
Pass that one down.
Try that, I'm not sure if it's charged or not.
Maybe you sounded surprised.
There we go.
All right, welcome everyone. It is the evening of May 3rd. This is a regular meeting of the Arlington City Council. I'm Mayor Rich Nagel and I will be presiding. So I will call the meeting to order, and would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we will have roll call. Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember Buss.
Here.
Councilmember Sharpie.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Batcher.
Here.
All members are present. Also at the table on my left is City Administrator Amy Newsom, and on my right, City Attorney Ross Arneson. With that out of the way, I would ask, is there any additions or changes to the agenda?
I have one change to the agenda. Under the consent agenda, remove C, 4C.
Okay.
And could I also ask the two that are online, could you please identify yourselves for the city council?
Are you talking about me, Amy? Sorry.
Yes, you're one of them.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Drews, and I'm with Corporate Technologies. I'm actually going to I'm going to log back on, Amy, like you said, around
Yep.
7:20ish to start talking, but I just wanted to not miss roll call.
Yep.
So myself, as long as the Vice President Neil Chris will log in at 7:20 then, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes.
Okay, you guys will move in.
Okay, anybody else? No?
There's another.
One more?
612 phone number.
And they both went off,
They
so it
both
must
just
be
went
yours.
They both went
So-
out. All right.
All right.
Okay, so the one change to the agenda then would be the deletion of item C under the consent agenda and moving the other item up to become item C, the last one. All right,
Make motion to approve the agenda with the amendments.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Batcher, second by Councilmember Sharpie to approve the amended agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. The consent agenda this evening consists of the following. Item A, approval of the bills. Item B, approval of April 19th, 2021 City Council minutes. And then item C, accept resignation of Angelica Rose from the Arlington Area Ambulance. Is-
Motion to approve minutes or consent agenda, sorry.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Batcher, second by Councilmember Morgan to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, moving on to item 5, addressing the council. Is there anyone present this evening that wishes to address the council? Mr. Patel, did you? Yes, would you like to address the council?
Yep, I'm here for my,
Could you use a microphone, please?
Microphone, please.
And have a chair, if there's one there? Yeah, there you go. Identify yourself and who you're representing.
my name is Ashwin Patel, I'm from Patel Group and Premium LLC. I'm here for the Senex gas station to convert to the off-sale liquor. We are planning, we have another store which open, we call as a pre-stop, so we are planning to utilize the existing Senex station to convert to the off-sale liquor store. We are basically completely converting from C-store to this off-sale liquor store. That means there will be no food items or nothing item which is required for below 21. And And the outside pump also, we are trying to propose to just do a prepay only by credit card. So there is no one inside come for any prepay. It's like a Costco and Sam's Club, the bigger retailer has, just a credit card use only. So that means that there is no one inside has to come just for gas only, because they can pump gas outside using their credit cards. We are planning to do, because of to utilize the two store with the same line of business, it's difficult for us to survive in a small town, because we have a big store in pit stop having a lot of foods items and all other groceries and C-store section. So we want to use as a Cenex as a different line of business, which we are planning to convert to the wholesale liquor stores. I think the Ross is working with some liquor agency to figure out that they allow. But I think if we just convert the pumps prepay outside only, I think there is no intention anybody to come inside, so we don't have to make any changes inside the store. So that is basically, we are only selling the off sale, which is for 21 and above, cigarette, which is also 21 and above. That's only 2 items we are selling. We can also remove the scratch ticket, which is 18 and above, so that's also does not require anybody below 21 needs to come inside. And that will also help city residents, because we will have a multiple varieties of off-sale liquor, which include liquors, beers, and also wines. That will help us for different varieties that city residents have to buy.
Okay. And what, your plans on when you want to do that? What are you looking at as far as plans? How quickly?
We can pretty much do
Okay.
quickly as based on the city approval and state
Okay.
approval, because there is nothing we need to do inside any change. Only thing we need to take it out the food equipments,
Okay.
like we do pizza and small, these are very small
Mhm.
equipment we just take out. There is nothing, any changes we have to make inside.
Okay.
It's just the food items we need to move to the other store pit stop, which is easy to do that, like chips and stuff like that. There's liquor people don't allow to sell inside.
Okay.
And I do have, I just wanna chime in, I do have this application, they have applied for an off-sale liquor license already.
Okay. All right.
But we will address that after,
Yes.
at an upcoming council meeting.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for the introduction of your plans,
Okay.
and good luck with. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there we go.
It'll just be a few minutes.
Are we waiting, or are we?
I could keep going.
Keep going?
Just
All
let's
right.
do this old school, without it on the projector.
All right.
It'll be fine.
We'll move on to the communications. There are no announcements. Go ahead, Amy.
Included in your packet, unfortunately, I can't show it up on the screen, is the April 2021 MMPA summary from the board meeting that I attend for MMPA. It's usually very short, to the amount of information they provide to the public, they keep very short. They also included the auditor's report. If you've had a chance to take a peek at that, if you have any questions about that, please let me know and I'll pass it along to Avant Energy. So we keep going.
Keep going.
Included in the packet is also the October 26, 2020 Cemetery Committee meeting minutes and the Parks Committee meeting minutes. They met again just last week, Monday, both
Mhm.
committees met. So those are the approved minutes from those 2 meetings. And also the economic impact that was provided by the University of Minnesota Extension on the Huff project, which is to take place on the Nickel property.
Any questions regarding the items in communications? Hearing none, we will move to item 8, reports. A report from Emergency Manager Director Tim Hogdauer. Welcome, Tim.
Hello, thank you. Mayor and City Council. Battery, hi. Sorry about that. Last year, we got today the emergency manager stuff. We were having some problems with one of the sirens in town. And it was the one at 4th and 4th Avenue between Adams and Baker when you're going down the hill on 17 there. We worked with Myers and we worked with the phone company with it, and it became an issue with more or less the underground frontier phone lines coming to it that are giving us issue when the ground is wet. And when I talked with them and Federal on it, Federal is a siren company that does studies for us on radiuses and how things are. And they suggested at that time that we should consider looking at updating that siren, cause it's probably, they figure it's around the 1972 is when that was put up. And the pole is quite short from what they want. Now they want a minimum of about 50 feet to get the radius out. I think in your packets you have a map now, and the green outline that you see there is if we would update that one. And I'll back up a little bit. Now, since then, we got that fixed, the ground dried out, the siren's working good. But now we have the same issues with the one that's just right here outside, is the same thing. The last month now it did not go off, phone line issues. In talking with Federal, they're telling me that that siren, apparently Arlington's been moving that siren around. They're telling me it's from the late 1940s to the early 1950s. And so they're really suggesting don't stick any money into it, to seriously look at doing an update on it. And so I did got some numbers together from Federal as they did the sound testing on it, which by upgrading those two poles, bringing those up to 55-foot poles, about 6 feet in the ground, and then the siren's gonna be on top, which will give us about a 50-foot height, which is quite a bit higher than what it is. And your green outside preference lines with the 70 decibels really gets it out there to where we need it now. We'll be set for a long time with growth with Arlington from all the perimeters around, which will do a phenomenal job. And we were lacking, actually, on the old siren that's on 4th Avenue between Adams and Baker going down the hill there. With doing that, just with the ground dropping, the grade dropping, we've definitely increased that area down there well by, if we can do this. So working with Federal, Ready Watt is the company that provides all the mechanism, battery backups. So if the power was out, it's just like the one behind the fire hall. That one's on 4 batteries in there, car batteries. So if the power's out, they still can trigger the sirens. And the county, there's antennas there, and the county triggers those sirens whenever we radio up for fire or phone in. The county triggers those, so there's no more phone lines. You know, we're bringing up to the latest technology, which is really nice. And we have a lot more preparedness for us if something happens. And then, so Federal sirens, each one's, again, I think it's in there, is $11,325 per siren. Ready Watt wants $5,805 for all the electronics, the radio systems, and then them installing it. Newsmeyers have 2 numbers, 490 and 560. Apparently each one's a little bit different. And what's nice about these two is there's 220 that runs these sirens now. We're gonna be down to 110 with a 20 amp breaker. So that's helping tremendously also. So it makes the electrical side of things much easier because we can drop a whole leg. And that'll help out a lot for them. So it's pretty reasonable to have them hook them up. McLeod, for the 2, and I'm not for sure if they're used poles, but he said they're very good poles, and that's all he said talking with them there. And they bring them over, they would pull out the old poles, have the new ones laying there so Ready Watt can put all their stuff on it. And then McLeod would put them back in the ground for us about 6 feet down for about $1,300 per pole. So that brings us to about $18,990 per siren. And I didn't realize those old ones are as old as they are. It's time, you know, if the funding is there, I'm not for sure where the budget sits for the year, but.
While our projector is working, let's take a look at this really quick. We've decided the CIP money that's in that capital improvement 401 fund, that we are to allocate between the different areas so that we know fire this year. You can see how much is in fire because we allocated a lot of money this year when we did our CIP. And that's how much they should have at this year, this point in time. I haven't put down what we've spent so far this year for anyone, but civil defense is one of those items that needed to be included. Here's Tim, is civil defense is what he's under. So when I did the split at the beginning of the year, he would have $38,873.25. Just enough to pay for this. I totaled the whole thing up at $37,910.
Where did that come from? Like, what do you mean by the split?
We had do you remember Pat Melvin talking about in the past?
Some
that there's
different
just
numbers.
A pool of money.
Okay.
A pool of money. Well,
Yeah.
we've allocated the pool of money now to the different departments so that we know how much is available for ambulance.
So you
Is that-
just did an equal amount between
I just did
everything?
because I just did an equal amount at the beginning of the year.
Cause I was gonna kinda throw out that, you know, I think it was 50,000 we get and 25,000 is what we talked about for the sidewalks.
And that's
Well,
under the public works.
you know, like this is a pretty good thing that you could say that is health and well-being of the
You could
community, which
Take
would
that
take,
money out of
take that-
Kirby's.
well, no, I'm not suggesting that we take it out of the sidewalk, because wasn't it 50 grand, or was it only,
25
25.
per year.
but, oh, it's per year is only 25.
Mhm.
Well, there's more in that health and safety budget, there's like a lot more than that comes in every year, that's just one piece of it. A quarter of the
That
money
comes
goes
from
to the
the-
sidewalks and the other 3/4 goes
From the
somewhere else.
hospital.
And-
No, that's what I was wondering, if there was if there was a little bit there that we could take and cover this, because this is something that you,
We'd be pulling it out of this 401 fund.
right now.
Mhm.
Because I wouldn't feel that every year you need to have this amount of money in there, I suppose,
No, and
yeah, we would
Once
budget.
we pull this out, you know, Tim
Yeah.
would have almost no money in his
Yeah.
civil defense, but are you,
But again, we, you know,
and then we could budget and put
We're
some
in
back
it all
in
year.
for him
Yeah.
to plan for other, whatever may come up, if you wanna put 5,000 a year or whatever
yeah.
would be an appropriate amount to start padding his civil defense.
Because I would assume there's more sirens around town that are old too, that they're gonna,
There's, we actually just have the three.
just one?
Yeah, the other one's at the fire hall, and that one we're thinking is possibly around that 15 to 18 years old. And
Okay.
that is exactly set up how these are, it's radio controlled, has the 4 batteries in there. It's gonna be, that one is quite large, these are gonna be much smaller than, but you can see it covers the area that we need it to cover.
And I know the one closest to us here did not go off last time, because I did mention it to Tim, I said, I didn't even hear the siren here at the community center.
Well, for
But I
me,
think,
even on my end of town, I don't hear it even when it goes off unless I'm standing outside.
Yeah, they're
So-
not.
So this is definitely
are these gonna be any noisier than the existing? Because
Yes,
obviously,
they
because
are.
they're higher, it's gonna
Yeah,
broadcast
exactly,
out
and then,
further.
Pamphlet, or the sheets that you got should show, yeah, before it was the yellow thing, and now we're gonna be out to the green. And that's, that one Amy has up there too, is pretty close to what we have right now. The 3 circles, and now with the new one will be the outer circle.
Hmm.
So we are getting a little bit stronger to the north and to the west, but typically when storms come in, this is on a perfect weather, not high winds or anything. So again, too, it'll push us more depending on the weather to the east to also into the south.
Are those sirens, are they rotating? Do they rotate or are they stationary?
No, they'll rotate,
They rotate?
yeah.
Okay.
Boy, Rich, nope, I take that back. I think it's more of this style,
The new ones
the
won't
new
go.
ones, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're-
The one
they're-
on top of the fire hall rotates, and these will be,
The others will be stationary.
yes.
Well, I think the last thing you want in your community is some storm sirens that are not working. And
Yeah.
definitely coming up on season where people are out and about, and yeah, I think it's something we have to do.
It's just, I was amazed how old that they claim that they are.
No, when you told me 1940s, I was like, are you serious?
So apparently we've, through the years, like I said, taken them from the, took that one down, moved it over there, and it's like, wow, and it's.
Well, they built things heavy duty back
they
then.
did.
As far as getting bids, are we okay with doing this without getting multiple bids?
Well, that's what I talked to Tim about. I said, is there a lot of different places we could get bids from? Can we get 2 bids for
Mhm.
this, or is it too specialized?
I tried, and these were the only ones that, because Federal is the siren maker, and they said that Ready Watt is their installer from Minnesota. So, and I chatted with him, because it took quite a while for them to give me the price back, so I was getting a little nervous, and talking with Federal, and he's like, I'll work with them, get it back, because he said, I said, I'll go looking for somebody else, and basically he said, well, there really isn't anybody. And again, too, one thing nice about it, because both these companies have done the one behind the fire hall, so the radio frequencies, and they know exactly how to marry that thing into the council up at the county, which helps a lot, also, this reinventing it again.
The way I understand it, if it's too specialized, we can just get the one, we can get by with the one, am I correct?
Yes.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve purchasing the 2 sirens for $37,910 out of the capital CIP budget, civil defense.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Morgan, second by Councilmember Batchor, to approve the replacing of the 2 warning sirens in town at a cost of $37,910. More discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Just to add, they're telling me about possibly, depending on how we hit their cutoff with the COVID things, they said about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, which would be really nice.
Yep,
I appreciate it, thank you guys very much.
Mhm.
Appreciate it there also.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, item B, Public Works Report, Maintenance Supervisor Weckworth. Good evening, Kirby.
Now it's on, okay. Alright. Well, I guess the major thing this last month was transferring kind of from winter to spring. Winterizing and cleaning up and storing our winter equipment. Just this morning I got the snow blower off to St. Paul to be fixed. It needs new bearings in the augers. Also just a couple other things kind of replaced, minor things, and then they're gonna do a couple fluid changes that I can't get at in our shop. We'll see if they come up with anything else. I guess along with transferring over, getting spring stuff ready, lawnmowers, weed whips, spending time in our parks, cleaning them up, and yeah, that's kind of kept us busy. Spent a lot of time lining up, trying to get ahead of things with the slow March snow removal. I was able to start on some contractor work, lining up tree removal, stump grinding, the street CIP work, so chip sealing, crack filling, hot patching. I'm gonna get a storm outflow on the southwest part of town where our storm pond is. I'm gonna have an excavator come in and dig that out. That's in bad need of that. Also the EMS building, getting the HVAC bids lined up. And we had some masonry work done on our well shed on 2nd Avenue Southeast in East Baker. We took out some old windows that were really bad shape and just had them bricked off. I think we're losing a lot of heat through them. And also the community center, we finally got the brick fixed around the base of the sign. Did quite a bit of cold patching potholes already. There'll be more to come yet. I know Thomas Brothers just got a pallet in for us. We graded the alleyways, cleaned up parks, I said that already, properties. Spent some time in the cemetery filling in sunken graves and seeding them. And then during the rain days, kind of continued some shop work. Took apart old park benches. We had 12 benches that we were able to take apart and, keep the lumber, and we're gonna probably sand them up and kind of restore them and be able to use them down the road for whatever. Fixed a sinkhole on Main Street in a catch basin last week. Just needed some mortar around a pipe. And then we also just kind of had a handful of electrical issues. Felt like I called McLeod 5-6 times last month. I don't know. Hard to tell, but I think all the boring in town that was going on, they were nicking streetlight lines. So, anyways, we got those problems fixed up.
So is there a way to tell if they were actually nicked by them or what?
We had a meeting with McLeod and kind of discussed that, and there is no way to really tell.
What if we didn't have the problems beforehand?
The boring wasn't exactly I don't know. We'd have to pursue that further. I mean, at this point, we just had to get it fixed, but I don't know, we'd have to revisit what we discussed in that meeting with McLeod.
If they did do it.
It sounded like
if
it was
they
gonna
did
be,
it According to what they sign off on the right-of-way permit, they have to put things back the way it was. So if they hit it, they should be responsible for paying to
And
fix
we
that.
shouldn't have to.
Well, we'd have to, prove it,
We have to prove.
yeah.
that's the vibe I got, it was gonna be,
Especially with electrical wiring, it's
And a
gonna
lot
be kinda tough to show that it was a nick. It could've shown, like a root or rock or something
and
that
I
bumped it.
can't say that for all 5 or 6 of them, but there was a couple that I really think probably was boring.
Did we take pictures or anything like that of those areas?
We
or-
still could, I mean, they're still ripped up.
But the underneath part where the wires, where they're boring the machine, you ain't gonna see that.
No, I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know, I mean, me and Amy could revisit that, our minutes or meetings, but it sounded like it was gonna be tough to try to pin that on them, but I guess I'm being skeptical,
We had one time, it actually hit our sewer pipe and it ran up the sewer pipe and somehow they got it back out. And when we started backing up, we ran the camera down and you could see the line in there. So then they had to, come back out and move the whole sewer pipe, because it was fiber optics, so it was really quite expensive. But it literally ran up our sewer pipe.
so yeah, I guess coming up, just finish up some bidding process for street work, keep up on parks, it's gonna be busier this year, it's wide open, people are using them, and a lot of ball being played at the parks, baseball. Try to do some boulevard work, filling in sunken spots from old stumps, and we'll have a lot of new stumps to take care of. The brush pile is getting massive. I found out we can actually get that chipped for free from Herman's Landscaping out of Jordan, so that was good news, because I didn't want to have to burn that. Yeah, that's, I guess, the main stuff. If anybody has anything, any questions?
I think it's a city street light, last one on 5 going out of town, west side of the road. How long has that thing been that fluorescent purple color?
I got a text from James one night. It must have happened within the last few weeks.
I was gonna tell you, when I come into town from Gaylord one night, after farming, and I stopped because I thought there was something wrong.
Yeah, I'll have to switch that out or try to monkey with it a little bit.
Well, I don't
see
think
if
there's anything wrong with it, it's just I
it's
come across
purple
them
now,
like,
yeah.
you drive this road every day, how long has this been like that?
Right. Like I said, I got a text from James, with a picture of it, and then I saw it the other night.
Yeah, it's
thought,
purple.
That's weird. I'll have to shake some wires, maybe it'll fix it. I don't know.
So looking at the 2 quotes for the HVAC, was any of the companies in town, they just weren't gonna quote it because it's too large, or?
Well, why not is essentially getting out of all of that. I
Okay.
mean, they refer us to B&R out of Winthrop from now on.
The next question, I guess, is potentially for our electrical provider. So, when you look at the SEER rating, which has to do with the energy efficiency, some of the last ones I've installed, I think it was either 15 or 16. When I got above that, then it qualified me for a rebate. I don't see anything on this other quote, so I don't know what that number is, but there potentially would be a rebate on this 17.5 SEER air conditioner
Could we-
add-on on the
Could we
warrant.
check with our power company on that, so they take a look at the bids and,
And sometimes, it could be, on a project this size, it might be $1,500.
What did you think the rating had to be?
I wanna say it's either 15 or 16, but
Why not 15?
I don't think 13's gonna qualify, no. So then I just wonder what this unit is, and I guess you could figure that out based on the model number and stuff, or just have them share that with you. Cause on AC, what I've seen is they don't go by the energy efficiency rating, they go by the SEER rating instead, which is basically the same thing, but it's just a different way of rating it.
So what's the story on the HVAC system for the EMS building? Did I hear there's separate systems, or is it all one system, or what? for
Well,
that
right
building?
now, it's 25 years old, and I think it was originally installed basically to heat and cool the EMS meeting area
Yeah.
and then the old city office, which is now the ambulance.
Okay.
And then police was added, 10 years ago, maybe, something like that, as a
Yep.
occupied office space. And ever since that happened, it's struggled it's on 3 zones, and it's kind of a mess. It's not efficient. I've had contractors there probably a dozen times since I took over, just trying to fix things, and it freezes up, it doesn't cool when it's hot. And that building with the brick, and then, I don't know what's between the brick and the inside, but it's like a foot thick, must be block. Man, when that's hot, it stays hot. So, it just, the way things are right now, it's not working.
So the upgrade
And
would
it's-
take care of that? It would
The
be,
heater's old, yeah, it
Okay.
had some parts replaced last year. I had 3 different companies come and look at this with me, and they all seem to agree on the way this is set up. That would be the best way to do it. The vents, the venting in the PD is particularly interesting. And it's got concrete ceiling. So adding vents, I don't know, they made it sound like it was gonna be,
Well, that's why
Either
it's
you
mini
can't or
splits,
it's-
right? So they
right,
just
that's
have
why they
the
went
deep-
with this option,
Mhm.
so. I know they were sweating it out quite a bit, I know it doesn't heat right, sometimes it's a challenge, yeah. It takes a lot of my time and calling contractors, and seems like it just needs an update.
Even when the ambulance was in that back room, it wasn't that great. It was either cold, it was really cold, or, too hot.
From what I understand, these mini splits are kind of a backup heater, to a
Yeah.
certain
Yep.
degree anyways, -10 or something.
Depending on the
You know,
unit.
it's gotta
So-
be, I mean, I have them in my house, and it's gotta be more like springtime or early fall. If
Okay.
it's too cold, they can't catch up,
Okay,
but yeah, you can use them like that still.
Okay, so what are we looking at here? Low bid from GOG Sheet Metal
yeah, yep.
of,
Well, are they adding 24, or is it just 24? I was trying to, cause it says above.
That's
stuff.
24 if you add, let's see, that's if you add the air conditioner on top of the furnace. 22,700 if you do, or 22,940 if you don't.
I'm confused on.
I don't see the need to add a air conditioning unit, I guess, in my mind.
So is it air conditioned now?
It is, yeah. It tries to run 3 zones, the police, the EMS, and the ambulance. And I don't think it was originally designed, it's a poor design, it doesn't,
And so now they'd be putting, the
be
mini
putting mini
splits all
splits in,
there.
yeah. And they would add a vent, they were gonna add a vent in the, kinda in the short little hallway as well, up in the ceiling, for heating.
how is our
Do
budget?
we know how much the electrical and
Set.
control work is gonna be along with it? That's not included in either of the prices?
Probably 2,500 bucks, I would guess.
The electrical, you said?
Yeah, the electrical and controllers not included in either of the bids.
Isn't that what on the bottom,
Yeah, it says it's not included.
Basically, either Newsmeyer
Oh,
or
okay.
another electrician would have to, actually
That's on
look
the-
up the
on the
thermostat
GOG
and
one.
Power.
or the,
Both of
On
them.
both
oh,
of
that's
them.
both, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, so we'd have to reach out to electrician.
So what numbers are we dealing with here then on the Waconia Comfort, 32,838.89, is that right? That's the grand total?
Correct.
The other one?
22,
The 22,940?
correct, Kirby?
Correct.
Yeah. And how is our budget setting for
We did
this?
not put any money, this would come out of the CIP as well. We did not budget for
Okay.
this, so you'd be taking money out of, this would be split between the ambulance and the police. It
Okay.
would come out of their CIP budgets, half and half.
I guess I'm confused on the bid from that gag. I mean, is it 22.9 for the furnace, and then you add another 22 for the 13 SEER, and another 24,
No.
or another 24 for...
If you wanted to add a furnace to the, or add an air conditioner to the furnace, those are the two prices.
It costs us less?
If, it would only be 22,940 if you just went with the mini splits and the furnace, without an air conditioner on the furnace.
Yeah, the two separate units instead of having it be one unit.
And so we wouldn't do you wouldn't do both, you wouldn't do all the mini splits and then do a furnace with air conditioner. You would eliminate some of the mini splits if you wanted to go that route. But I would just do the mini splits, because in the future, they're gonna be easier to replace as well. Cause you just gotta replace the problem child, not the whole system.
They'd have to do some vent work too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, how about this air purifier and humidification, is that needed?
Not in my mind, no.
Do we know what the humidity levels are at? Have you noticed at all?
Seems pretty dry in there.
Humidifier in there.
We have an air exchange in the closet.
I do.
Yeah. We have an air exchange in the PD.
Do you have any PD?
Air exchange, you mean it's pulling air from outside? So
pulling
it's-
fresh air.
Keep the humidity
But
down.
he's shaking his head.
Pumping, no, it's pumping to the outside, from the inside.
Oh, it's not pulling nothing in?
No. I guess not an air exchanger, but a, whatever you call them.
So that?
Sure. Pushing air outside.
exhaust fan, exhaust fan.
It's always running. I don't know, it doesn't not moldy or, I mean, everything seems okay there to me. I don't know. We don't have a,
Well, that's just why I asked.
well, you could, it's
Well, 'cause wasn't someone talking about the
$425.
basement being really like musty and stuff and not wanting to go down there and,
Yeah,
so is this located in the basement? It's not.
No, the basement's gotten a lot drier since we, fixed the sub pump.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, that used to be a problem.
I was down there within the last couple of months and I was surprised at
Yeah.
how much,
It's much better now.
it wasn't as clammy.
But, I mean, there's that pricing there, if you guys would wanna add it.
So what's the issue right now? I mean, is it
Doesn't
working?
heat and
It's
it
not
doesn't
working?
cool
So it's
very
not
well.
cooling at all?
Not very well, not when it gets, man, you get the middle of summer, they're sweating it out. It freezes up, it's just, it can't keep up. It's pushing air to one end of the building before it can keep up with the PD. The PD really is what suffers in the summer, then I think the ambulance is the issue in the winter, correct?
Yep.
However that works out, I don't know, I'm not a genius with that stuff, but all I know is I get a lot of calls. And I make a lot of calls. And it's old. I mean, it needs to be replaced soon anyways.
Okay, does anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the air purifier or humidification, which I believe we could get later and have installed as well if we wanted to.
Well, it would almost only work with the heater, so you'd almost, you'd have to be having that fan run, cause your mini splits are,
Right,
so
it
you'd
would
have
be with
them.
the furnace,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that these two ads were with the furnace, not the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says that to the furnace. Yep.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Thomas, second by Councilmember Sharpie to accept the bid from GOG Sheet Metal in the amount of $22,940. That is to do the upgrade on the HVAC system at the EMS building. Is there further discussion?
Is there gonna be a bid?
I would just note that there needs to be electrical work also.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna mention that to add to, so I don't know if you wanna leave this project at what you stated on here, if you wanted to open it up to.
There'd probably be 2 electrical bids based on running it, I assume. Cause you can present
we would
this and
even
say,
need
this is
to.
what we're doing,
Yeah.
I want you to bid this work, not the bottom part.
It might not even, cost that much to just have it done. You know,
Well, they're gonna hook up,
instead of having to bid
well,
it.
it's gonna be a little bit with the mini splits,
Well, the
you're
mini
running
splits though, you're
remoteless, I guess.
yeah, it's low, I would consider it mostly low voltage wiring.
It's
More
still,
than mini splits.
it's gonna be, it might be a little higher than what I was thinking with that many of them.
We'll see. If we have to, we'll
Sounds
get
like we
bids.
got a whole lot of options other than window units.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, that's really, it's.
Okay.
it's
Okay.
It means something.
Yeah, I guess my question is what are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna bring the bids back, or what does that look like?
Depends
I
how
mean,
much
that's
they are.
definitely for this portion, I'm just wondering about the electric portion.
Depends how much they are.
Yeah, if they're under your limit,
If
you
they're
can, you
under
can
my limit, I
authorize it,
can authorize it.
right?
So.
3,500.
Get your bids and we'll see what we
Yeah.
get.
If they're under that, then
Okay.
maybe
Me,
just do it.
yeah. Bring up to me first.
Okay, again, motion by Thomas, second by Sharpie to accept the bid of GOG Sheet Metal, $22,940 for the upgrade at the EMS building. Any further discussion?
I just think that we should potentially have those bids, because if you're having it installed, now it's sitting there and it's not been wired, right? So most of the time they work together, while they're trying to hook it up, cause the plumber, the HVAC person is gonna want that person to wire it so that they can, basically put the parameters in, make sure everything's working.
Usually it's, I don't know, I can get somebody here usually,
Yeah.
they can coordinate that, so it works together. But you guys do what you want, I'm just saying.
Well, it's just.
I just didn't want it sitting there, like, they're putting it in and
No.
now we're waiting
No,
for a bid
we'll
or
make it-
something.
we'll make it work
Yeah.
together.
I would assume he's gonna go out and get bids.
We'll make it work together.
Yeah, they need to coordinate.
95-degree day, we got heat exhaustion and
It'll be done before that.
Okay, the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
There are filters on these mini split units that you gotta pull out and clean them every once in a while,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so, cause they will frost up too if they don't have air movement going through them.
Okay, we got some curb work you'd like to discuss with the council?
Sure. Do you have that map, Amy, or, well, I guess you got the bids.
I got the bid.
I'd like to get some curb replaced. One of them is already torn out from a water break. And then a couple other are just most awful curb spots we have in town that need to be addressed. Where trees are tearing everything apart, pushing it up, and it's all broke up, and it's been on the docket for quite a while now. Seems like it's time to finally fix them up.
Have you worked with either one of the persons that submitted bids?
Hanson and Vosick, if I'm saying those in the right order.
Yep.
I've used them before. They do a good job. Chirpy out of Hutch, they're kind of a subcontractor for them. They're pretty well-known and trusted. Sindel I've never worked with.
Okay.
That was, somebody, they bid one of these other ones, didn't they? I remember that name.
Sindel.
Yeah, I think that was one of the
Maybe.
last ones,
Last year.
yeah.
They're out of Lesueur. Have you heard of them or any experience with anything that?
Yeah, no.
No?
So this is in the budget?
It would come out of my maintenance line, maintenance, streets maintenance materials. There's 25 grand in there right now.
So
I
the-
debated some of it coming out of the tree removal because had to remove the tree, or the tree removal would, wait, how was I gonna put that? Never mind, not the curb, no, forget it. It would come out of the street maintenance budget.
Okay, question?
So are you leaning towards the Hanson and,
I recommend Hanson and Vossick,
yeah,
yep.
We usually go with the lowest unless there's.
Unless there's
Yeah.
a reason not
If
to.
I remember right, they were lower.
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll make a motion to approve Hanson and Vossick Construction Incorporated in the amount of $15,150.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Morgan, second by Councilmember Thomas, to approve the bid for curb replacement and maintenance to Hanson and Vossick Construction out of Hutchinson at a price of $15,150. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. All right,
Hey, was that all I had? I think so.
that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, ambulance department report, Jamie?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Okay, bunch of things here. Just to follow up, we did secure the Arlington Raceway contract. So we did have a crew out there for test and tune to work with Bob Allen, just to kind of go through different scenarios for extrication and emergency services and such, and that was pretty well received. We spent a good 2.5 hours working with them, just kind of getting lay of the land and knowing the ropes, and I'm working on a schedule right now to get those nights covered for him. Ideally, what we're gonna have is I'll have a crew that's gonna be dedicated for the racetrack, and then we also have a scheduled duty crew that will be on call here in the city of Arlington to service anybody and everybody who needs us at any point in time. So yeah, I think we're pretty well prepared for that. We have all the equipment, we have all the necessary accoutrements for it, and I think it'll be a successful season. I did some digging on EMS week, and there's just a few things that I just wanted to let you guys know what I'm kind of working on. Scheduling a photo with Kurt for the paper for that particular week. I'd like to get a group photo of our current staff, kind of get our names and faces out into the community too, to let them know who we are, why we're there, that sort of thing. And then also, I've been working with the city administrator to put together some educational materials for the local schools and daycares for that week. So what to do kind of in an emergency, activity books and so on and so forth. I also plan on doing kind of like a coloring contest too. And we're working on an agreement with Kix Bakery to see about if, depending on how many we get, like the first few, we'd like to see some sort of either like a free cookie or something to the kids that bring in these coloring contest things, and we could potentially do some prizes for that. And then also this morning I did a training It's called Train the Trainer. They have the Stop the Bleed campaign along with CPR education. And so I was able to get my instructor certification this morning to do mass trainings on stop the bleed and tourniquet use. And so one of the things that I had asked Amy about was me doing a video and then posting it on social media and our website for educational purposes to teach people how to do wound control and stopping the bleed and using tourniquets, because you can buy tourniquets, and they're finding that education is the key point right now to saving some lives, especially when it comes to the beginning of our agriculture season and so on. So it's kind of important. I was thinking about doing that and then also reaching out to a bunch of organizations too to offer up free education as far as training and that Stop the Bleed campaign. Let's see here. Just looking over. The other key point too that we could potentially do is it's not just community organizations, but again, there was some interest in reaching out to the schools too, as far as training kids. And anybody and everybody can learn how to apply pressure and utilize that campaign. So I think that'll be a good thing. I also applied for a grant too to get training materials. So if we're approved for this grant, it actually would only cost us $25 out of pocket to receive instruction videos, training materials. There's a couple, they call them leg stumps, so you can actually practice your wound control on mannequin parts. So I'm hoping we get that grant. I think that'll be very beneficial to us. Been working on just standard ambulance policies and procedures. I know that we have been kind of going by the city personnel policies. We really didn't have a whole lot as far as, I want to say, ambulance-specific equipment policies and procedures, so I've been working pretty heavily on that, just because it reduces our liability and such, so it's something that we need to have. Been working on that. And then also too, we did receive our EPCR tough pads, the Dell Latitudes, and I have the programming pretty well set up. The internet and the networking connections are pretty well set up, so now I'm gonna be working with the crew to get them all trained in so we can get ready for EPCR in that transition towards the end of the month. Yeah, so a lot's been going on. So in regards to the proposal that was included in your guys' packet, any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
It's titled Executive Summary.
One thing I usually do is go to the end and find out what the net is, what net request is, and then I back up and
Yep.
look at what makes that up.
Sure.
So if I do that, we're looking at, less than $5,000 net outlay from 34,272 to 39,600. Whoop,
Yeah.
nothing there.
Sorry,
I
the
could do
projector
finger
was being
shadows or
fussy.
whatever. So am I reading that right, that total cost per year increase?
Yes,
Based on your, your examples,
yes.
would be about that 5,000, all right.
What are we looking like as far as budget goes? I mean, I know this is gonna be our first full year of having it be the Arlington ambulance again, and with changes and with major changes that we've made.
Yeah.
What's the big picture looking like? Halfway, almost halfway, a quarter, how far are we in, a quarter? A little over a quarter.
I don't have the most recent, so the expense revenue budget that I have currently in front of me was the one from March 31st. And, yeah, so it would be the first one. So let's see here. It says, so the 2021 budget was the 254,843. The 2021 year-to-date amount is 48,324. So year-to-date balance was $206,518. So it states, to this one, it's 18%.
This might sound weird, cause I may not know the on-call, does that mean that they're on site to get that, or is that someone that lives in the area? So say I lived in, Eden Prairie and I came here to, provide ambulance service, or I worked a shift or whatnot. Obviously I would need to be here.
Yes.
So both people, are they paid the same rate for on-call, or?
Yes, so currently, right now, so if it was that kind of scenario, if you're coming in from Eden Prairie and you're gonna work a 12-hour shift and be on call here at the base, because you're not within that 8-minute rollout time, that en route time, we would ask that you have to be at the base. With that, you do get the $2 an hour on call plus the $50 incentive because you are here putting in a full 12-hour shift. Unfortunately, those that live within the community and that the ones that do live within that 8-minute response time, they do not receive that incentive. No,
So they're not getting the $50.
no. That's why this particular proposal, I was trying to do kind of like a recognition and what's good of the group type of situation. Cause right now, if at that $2 an hour and that $50 incentive, you would be getting roughly $6.16 an hour to be on call. So that's why I proposed the $6.25, because then that's a little bit more than that $50 incentive for those, the out-of-town individuals that do come and stay at the base versus those that would be within that 8-minute en route time.
Just looking at Jamie's budget, she is, after the end of the first quarter, she was at 19.41% of her budget, which after a quarter should be at 33%. So she's under budget for her expenditures. And we looked at the revenue and she was about $3,000 short of the projected revenue. Which is not much in the grand scheme. Her projected revenue is over $200,000.
Yeah. I think it was 275. So it averages out about 22,000 a month.
So the person that comes here from out of town, do they get the $6.25 plus the 50?
No,
No.
Just
no,
the-
if it was the
Just the
$6.25, the
on-call.
$50 incentive would go away.
Just even playing field across the board for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, both EMTs and paramedics alike, because I would really like to have the paramedics start taking calls so we can take some of these ALS transfers out of this facility, especially during the night. I did a report last year in 5 months. We lost 43 transfers in that time frame. So that'd be 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. when we don't have paramedic coverage, and predominantly on weekends in that time frame too. So I'd really like to snag as many as those that I possibly can. And I do have a couple paramedics who would really like to work over the nights as well. Because they come from Andover, they come from Mankato, they wanna kind of maximize their time frames. So then that $6.25, they would be eligible to have that on call, but then if they do get paged out and they have an EMT with, that EMT is getting the $17 an hour, that medic is getting $28 an hour. So I'd really like to open it across the board and have that opportunity. And give them that opportunity as well.
Well, I think we need to continue to support our ambulance, when we went on our own again, I think that was just something that we knew we had to do, and that is if it wasn't going to work out to join with someone else, we had to support our ambulance. I think this is one of the ways we do it, is by letting the volunteer ambulance people know that we appreciate them and we're rewarding them, and we want to try and minimize the turnover. I know there's been quite a little turnover, but a lot of it is, I suppose some is for financial reasons, some is just for, you know, family life balance or whatever, but,
Well, something when you were talking about the training for the tourniquet and stuff, and I see that being very valuable potentially for the future. I mean, maybe whether it's a student, whether it's somebody in town that takes, you know, initiative to come and do that training, they might see that as being, you know, they get to know some people and maybe they end up signing up. So I really like that, that approach.
I like the idea of bumping it and doing a flat across the board. I know talking with a lot of the EMT folks down there, I mean, they were all okay with giving the outer counters that extra money.
Yep.
But I think it came from a place of desperation and that we need these outer counters here, otherwise nobody's gonna be here.
Right, I agree.
And with that being said, to put them all kind of on that same playing field or whatever, for the, I mean, I don't like spending money, but for the cost of this program, I think adding that ALS service then too, in the evening hours, it's gonna be huge, because I know that's revenue making. And the
Yes.
5,000 that we're spending potentially with 40, 50,
I could recover that
Transfers,
even in
we can
two. Yep,
we can recoup it really quick, so.
right.
In my opinion, I think it's a step in the right direction and, kind of makes everybody feel as an equal partner.
Yes. That was my goal with this.
I will make a motion to, approve the proposal by, Jamie, doing a $6.25 on-call with no incentive to EMR, EMT, and paramedics on call.
I'll second.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. Motion was by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Thomas. Is there further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
In regard to that tourniquet, I find it interesting that they went away from it many, many years ago, and now it's all of a sudden, it unfortunately took a war to bring it back, but, just as I was finishing my ambulance, we weren't doing it, and it just started coming back on, because they did find in the field that tourniquets actually save lives. The whole thinking that they had kind of backwards thinking that if you put a tourniquet on and don't do it properly, the person would lose a limb.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, if you bleed out, you're.
Yeah.
They, for a long time, they did not like us using tourniquets at all, you know?
Right, they were terrifying. They were absolutely terrifying. One of the things that they said in the training this morning, that the major kickoff for this Stop the Bleed program was the Sandy Hook shooting. A lot of the people who died could have been saved if they had tourniquets readily available to them. And they're like, it needs to be done, it needs to be dealt with. And the data shows it, the military shows it black and white. This is what we do, this is how we can save lives, so. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's all I've got for this evening.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Item 9 is to consider a proclamation for EMS Week. And you've had this in your packet.
Do we need a motion on this, or is this just?
This is just an announcement.
It's just an
The
announcement,
mayor
and
will be proclaiming
I will be,
May
so,
16th to the 22nd as EMS Emergency Services Week.
okay. Any questions on that?
Oh, you're not reading it?
Oh, no. You want me to,
No, no. Yes, I just thought
You're supposed to make a big deal.
I know, it's supposed to be like a big thing, right? I mean,
if you,
not that
do
I
you
like
really
to
want me to read it?
you guys are right.
I certainly can read it.
I would do that on May 16th.
I'll come here on May
Yeah,
16th and
we'll
read
be
it.
here on May
No, no,
16th.
do it up on Main Street.
Yeah.
Go get your podium.
Moving on.
All right. Unfinished business. Is there any? Amy? Do you know it? Move on to item 11, approve, deny Bolton and Mink to survey nickel property at a cost of not to exceed $5,000.
So this was more expensive than we had anticipated, having that survey done. As part of the closing on the property, we do have to have this survey before we can set up closing for this. And I expected it to be a few $1,000s that I would be able to approve, but I included the email message between Jason Femmer and myself in there. And this land had been split up a few times. Some of it was sold off for housing, some to the bottom was sold off to the Sibley County Agricultural Association. A new plat had not been done, so it had not been replatted. They need to survey and write new legal description for this piece of property. So it's a little more involved than I had originally anticipated, so I brought it to council because it is going to be more expensive than I can authorize.
Open for discussion.
So after this, when it comes time to get sewer and water and, it didn't hit me until after we were, already basically approving it, and that's where total cost of a project would anticipate some of this when I was referring to the payback and whatnot. So yes, I mean, it seems as though we've got no choice but to move forward. I don't know unless unless you put it on the person that just got the sweet deal on the property, but then, once this is done, then we've got sewer and water, and where's the sewer and water at? How far is it away? Is there gonna be cost to the city on that? There's probably gonna be cost to the person with the land as well.
Correct.
Which could be, maybe it's 50 grand, maybe it's 10 grand, maybe it's 100 grand. I don't know how far away the sewer and water
We
is.
had a meeting today with Tony Huff, and Jason and I met at 4 o'clock today, and Philip. And I'm not sure if he's gonna go ahead with the BDPI grant, actually. He's going to, it looks like he'll be hiring Bolton and Mink for his engineer to do his site plan. So they're gonna meet in Mankato and set up, they're gonna basically set up where the building should go, so that he makes sure he uses the land the best way before we decide where to bring in sewer and water. And Jason's gonna put together a few scenarios for the city and for Tony. And it may be that he does not even apply for the BDPI grant now. He may wanna just put it in himself, as when we talked about it, we do have to put it up for bids. And he wanted to do the work himself, so we may not be applying for the BDPI grant. I'll wait and see what Jason has to say.
Maybe involving Bolton and Mink will make Phil's job a little easier too, with
Yes, it will.
a lot more streamlined and everything where it needs to be, and so.
Bolton and Mink, are they the only ones that can survey the land, or did you reach out to anyone else?
I did not reach out to anyone
see
else,
what
I just went to
prices
Bolton
are?
and Mink.
I would like to see another, not that I wanna hold anything up, I would just like to see another bid. I mean, if you can approve another bid from another company versus us paying $4,000 or $5,000 to it.
Well, if I may interject a little.
Yeah.
Yep.
In my experience, particularly working for the city of Pittsburgh, surveys, particularly on this level, average around that price, like 4,000 to 5,000. They're actually, depending on the company, it could go to 6,000 to 7. I personally would prefer if we work with this Jason, because he's the city engineer. In my experience, if we get like a third party, sometimes their plans aren't accurate, and that can fall back on us, because I've had that happen working in the city when I've helped with bigger projects and stuff like that. there's a higher risk of blowback. I'm not saying a lot, but there is that. So I would feel more comfortable if we work with someone that we already have in the city and stuff like that, through my experience. However, it's up to city council, but that is just my input.
I mean,
I mean, I just
I
look
planted
at it
a
as a
piece of
survey.
land outside of Plato and I paid more money than this,
Mhm.
I can tell you that. So,
It makes sense to go with who we're working with anyways.
yeah.
In this whole area.
Well, Michelle does bring up a good point, like, it doesn't hurt to do that, but like I said, from my experience, normally, if we already have someone, surveys, they get tricky, because sometimes the person's not like serious. Just like the slightest error can cause problems in the end for us, even, so.
Why does the city have to pay for the survey? Is
Because
it written in
was
stone?
into the contract we signed,
It was,
the purchase agreement stated that the city would pay for it.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Basically, the seller almost always pays for a survey because it's the seller's responsibility to describe what they're selling.
what the property is.
Mhm.
And it just hasn't been surveyed for such a long time that the one that was done
It's been
before is
split
no
off,
good?
so-
Yeah, but it's been split off so much, that, you know, and it's Bolton Inc. that's been doing the surveys for the other part, so we're gonna know what got split off of this thing.
Also, given that it's been split off multiple times too, that's, in my opinion, that's raised a lot of red flags, because like I said, I'm speaking purely from experience. I've done that where parcels have been split, rejoined and done all this, and person brings in, like the city of Pittsburgh, we always have third parties, and there have been issues where the city of Pittsburgh has had liability issues because the surveyor that was used did not accurately do the survey. In some cases, it wasn't there because there was lack of information, but still, there is higher risk if we don't. Like I said, it's not a lot, but there is more of a risk if we use like a third party, we go with someone just a little bit cheaper.
So the grant thing, that's something that the city is applying for, or is that something
The
that?
city has to apply for the grant. A private business can't apply for that BDPI grant. If Huff decides he wants to move forward with it, we have to apply.
Move forward with like just doing something in general, or?
The BDPI, only the BDPI grant. If he decides he doesn't want to apply for it, then we're not going to apply for it, and he'll do the work himself.
So he just doesn't, he wants to get rid of that red tape that's
Yeah,
involved
that's
with,
why he wouldn't do it.
yeah, this
It might
just,
be looking like that, where he's
That's
trying.
how we kind of ended the
Mhm.
meeting today, was
Mhm.
that he was more in favor of doing work himself.
Which, to be honest, might end up benefiting us in the long run based on, from our conversation and everything. So, at the same time, there's still things at play.
Where do we take the money from?
This would come out of
The sale probably,
the EDA
EDA
budget
budget.
so the sale.
for exactly the $10,000.
Okay, would entertain a motion?
You can't make.
I'll make a motion to approve the cost not to exceed $5,000 for using Bolton Inc.
I'll second.
Was that Craig? Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Thomas, second by Councilmember Buss to approve the Bolton and Mank survey on the nickel property at a cost not to exceed $5,000. Additional discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to comment, for the council's benefit, we did actually dodge the cost of surveys up until now. When we were fractioning off pieces of this, we were able to say, you know, the east so many feet or the south so many feet, but with the understanding that we were gonna arrive at this day, you know, that we had to describe what we had left.
Oh, okay. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Because you're going off the corners and stuff, so you can section it off. Legal description.
That's what's gonna be tricky.
Other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 12, approve, deny hiring of Nathan Walton as full-time police officer.
Nathan has successfully passed his background, his physical, and his psychological evaluation. So the recommendation from myself and the chief of police is to move forward with hiring Nathan. He would be able to start tomorrow. He'll be starting at step 1, which is $22 an hour.
Yeah.
Second.
Was that Matt?
Motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Sharpie, to approve the hiring of Nathan Walton as full-time police officer for the city of Arlington at $22 an hour with a start date of May 4th, 2021. I just have one question. Is he able to, as far as the response time, chief, how is that gonna work?
I think, from what I understand, I think they're in the process of selling their house, when we first interviewed him.
Correct.
And I guess I haven't really, discussed that
Okay.
anymore. He does understand the 20 minutes.
He does understand the response time.
We made it clear that that was part of the,
Okay.
the job.
Okay.
Just as I work with them, I'll keep working with them until he needs that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 13, consider IT services.
James, you saw the email that went out. James decided he did not have enough time to do our IT work anymore. So it was turned over to me. I am not an IT person. There's some things I could help with, but not everything. I reached out to 3 different companies. Well, one is just 2 are companies, and one is just one person who does help out with IT work. I haven't had the opportunity, I haven't had any issues, so I haven't had the opportunity to reach out to the single gentleman yet and just see how things would go with him. Corporate Technologies has been in here, they have taken a look at all our stuff and they have helped us. Phil had the opportunity to use the help desk today, and everything went smoothly.
Yes, so far everything has gone smoothly, they were very nice, very helpful, and hopefully it'll continue like that. At the same time, I can't go any further because it was just one experience, and my dad works in IT, normally you need to work with them for at least a while before you understand what's going on, but like I said, right now the person I worked with knew what to do, it was pretty quick response, he got me into the computer pretty quickly, and he encouraged me if we had any other issues to, don't hesitate to call him back, so. But like I said, it was just one thing right now, so it might have changed by the next council meeting depending on how things go, so. I'm not gonna go any further, that's it, we should take them, you know.
Who was the single person? Was that somebody local or?
He's from Northern America,
Okay.
and he does work with a couple businesses in town. So I did talk to one of the businesses that he helps out, and they're happy with him.
Okay.
But he did tell me that since he's a single, a one-man operation, that, if a couple of the businesses he works with calls in on the same day, like a Monday morning, 3 people call him, he's gonna prioritize who he feels is the most important need that he needs to fix first and kind of go down the line.
I recognize his name.
Do you?
He went to school here.
Really?
Elementary, I'm not sure if he graduated from here, but I do remember the family.
I also would like to point out, particularly, we would consider using him slightly, that prioritizing could lead to issues, down the line, particularly if we do have a serious IT problem, like say the internet goes down and we're in the midst, particularly with my department, we're in the midst of doing something, like, in the middle of a project, we need to get things done ASAP, and the internet goes down, I would need IT service right away. And as it stands, corporate technology, they responded really quick and all that, but at the same time, that second party.
Well, they're the same way, I mean, so they're gonna have, let's say they've got 10 people, and they've got 15 or 20, gotcha, have you calls right away, I mean, they're gonna do the same thing as what this one individual is gonna do.
Depending on the size.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you gotta weigh into how much trouble do we have? How often are the potential, what's the risks? I mean, cause ultimately, you could make a call to a company like this, you just don't get the discounted rate most likely because you're,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were having a lot of issues. We were having a lot of issues. James said he was spending between 8 and 10 hours a week here, and it was every week that we couldn't get into Banyan, which we need to get into Banyan, or we can't process utility payments. That's very important on our list of things we need. We also have Laserfish that hasn't been used since, I believe, Liza's day, but yet we spend over $1,000 a year on it. I have it on my computer now, but James wasn't able to figure out how to make it work to scan things into Laserfish. That's our backup, like all the planning and zoning files are supposed to be scanned in there. All our checks are supposed to be scanned in there. So that's something I need an IT company. Christina, is that you?
Yeah, I was just letting you know that both Neil and I are on here.
Okay, so Corporate Technologies
So we
is
can-
represented. They are on Ring Central right now.
Yep.
So Laserfish
guys.
is something.
Hello.
Hi. So Neil and I are both here. Can you guys hear?
Yep.
Neil
Yes,
and I?
Yep.
we can hear you.
Okay, great.
It's just hard to hear everybody else.
Okay, so we were just kind of hearing you guys with the overview and maybe some questions were being risen, just basically how we would be able to gear. The only thing that I could hear was maybe a help desk call, how we would prioritize help desk calls, things like that, versus kind of a one-man. You know, the example was given about the 3 calls in, he would have to prioritize. Do you guys want to kind of have like a question answer on how we operate, or do you want me to go over a little bit about what we have done so far over the last couple weeks?
Why don't you go over what you've done so far since you came here? Tell us what you've done for us.
Okay, yeah, so I guess I'll just start with that. So we are 24/7, 365, so we were first initiated just trying to help out after James wasn't able to take on the whole city as well as the EMS. I know that he's going to keep doing the police station just immediately right now, and then hopefully that we're going to be able to gain that as well. So far, right away, we found out that your guys' backup was not actually backing up. Not only was Laserfish not backing up, the actual backup product that you guys had
Barracuda.
was not.
Working.
Yep, the Barracuda was not backing up. So what that means is there was no image given. So worst case scenario, if something would have pulled the plug or you guys would have had a natural disaster or anything would have happened, there was no actual live data being kept at the time. And this was about 2 weeks or so, I think, Amy, was it? Or
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks ago.
yeah. So we came on board the next day. We came out and just give a real nice investigation. Met a few folks that were there. It was a Friday morning, so it was kind of empty. But we got your PCs up and running. I know that a couple of the people have already tried the help desk and had good success with it. Our help desk is a little bit different than a single person or even most companies. It's a lot different. Just because we do have about 32 to 35 reps on site at all times. So that means that around the clock, nights, holiday, weekends, these are not an added charge. These are actually just included because we want to be able to take care of our customers, and we take care of customers around the globe. So we want to be able to make sure that we're, identifying different time zones, time changes, things like that. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Do you want to tell them a little bit about the Office 365 government migration that was recommended?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so do we have a CIT rep there at all?
I believe it's just,
didn't know,
no, they're not on Ring Central. They were invited, but they are not on Ring Central.
Oh, okay. So I guess a little bit of an unfortunate event was happening during the same time that we were trying to help you guys out. You guys were giving information that you guys needed to have a government license, basically to operate under a city. And we've looked into that, and there's not any expectations nor requirements that a city nor a government agency actually has to be specified under a government license. I kind of gave the example, you know, we have around 700 or so clients, a very, you know, good hand amount being the city and government entities, and you guys would have been the first ones to even have the government license. I requested from CIT that Friday, you guys were supposed to do the cutover at 4:30. I did, with Amy along my side, request just a handful of good referrals of other cities that they have under their umbrella, just because I was interested to see what the benefit would be for you guys in their minds, you know, because it's good to have referrals, it's good to have references, and there was just not really any references able to be given. So I guess did you already kind of explain, Amy, you know, the words that I guess we had to exchange and
They had a bit of a heated exchange.
Yeah, it was a little bit heated. We kept you guys under the Office 365 that was already given to you, which is a business license, which is very sufficient. We also have since then, within the last 2 weeks, gone through and actually saved you guys some money, noticing that you guys had duplicate mailboxes. So what that means is whenever you guys set up your initial mailboxes, you guys have actually a few of each person's mailbox. So we were able to save you. I don't have the dollar amount right now. The account manager is not on this call, so I can get you that, Amy. But I think Alex had already made you aware that.
He did. He ran it by me and said, hey, there's duplicate accounts here. What do you want me to do? So I did follow up with him and said which one to get rid of.
Yeah, so a neat thing with us, you guys and gals, is you guys also receive an account manager dedicated to your specific account. So anytime that you guys are having questions, or you guys want to run a new product by, or just price check what's going on in the market, you actually have like a virtual CIO that is able to step up and work for you during all that. If that makes sense. Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, do you guys have any questions specifically for myself or for Neil? He's on the line, he's been the vice president, he's been with the company. The company's been around for 40 years. This year is our 40th anniversary. So if you guys have any questions, this would be a good time.
So, this is Joe Morgan. See, I was looking at the cost structure, and, you know, it looks like the retainer, so I'm assuming that retainer is, you know, basically we have to pay $5,000 just to have you, and then we get a 5% discount off of the hourly rate. Is that the case?
No, there's a monthly service fee, and that service fee, it's not a retainer, it gives you all the services, so that provides the city all the devices, the PCs, all the networking equipment, unlimited monitoring and immediate response. So your server says, hey, help me, something's happening, our techs are there in Eden Prairie watching, like Christine was saying, night weekends and holidays, to respond to it before your environment goes down or has a major outage. And then the unlimited help desk, that 24/7, 365, so all the users can't print, can't send email, laser station isn't working, there's something happening. Those are unlimited dials, so you can call once, twice, or 100 times a month. There's not an uptick in the bill. And then on top of that, some additional on-site hours, just in case you need a tech on-site to install a new device. So there's the monthly cost on that. I'm pulling it up right now. Unless Christina, do you have it in front of you?
Sorry, I don't. Hold on, I can pull it up so quick. Oh,
900?
I just gotta put it on my computer quick.
So now that you did a lot of work for us as Michelle Batcher, council member, you did a lot of work for us in the last couple of weeks or whatever, getting our network up and running and devices on and everything working, correct? I mean, we're solid right now as far as our network and our pieces to our network are working?
There are some things that you would need a little bit of improvement. But everything that we do is all recommendations. We don't really have a lot of requirements. But with the new server that you have, there were a lot of patches and updates that were being done. Everything was set up on auto. Majority of the time when a server goes into auto, there's thousands of these things that Microsoft sends out to fix all their issues. In an environment your size, you might only need 1 or 2 a month, but the server gets bogged down, right? So, and then by the time people start showing up in the morning, it stops doing patches and updates because everybody stops execution on their desktop. And so we see, a lot of some maintenance that needs to get done, but there's no cost affiliated with that. That's just part of the service plan. Which is good that we caught it now. It's a pretty new server. It's a 2019 operating system on it, so it's only a couple years old. So, obviously it's something we want to keep our hands on to make sure we can get the ROI out of it. Don't get the 5 to 7 years.
Right,
The other thing that we saw too. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say with that, I mean, as far as, the server doing updates and stuff, Windows is sending out updates all the time. And that's something that really doesn't need to be
Right.
set at auto, really only needs to be done maybe once a month, once every other month or something like that as far as I'm thinking here. What I see here is a management and a monthly management with a monthly fee that's way over the cost I feel it's for us that I would like to see spent. What I would like to see is maybe like an hourly, get us up and running, get us to where we need to be, and then if we need any kind of service, if we need any kind of help desk, if we need that, I would like to see the hourly pay on that and not necessarily a managed cost.
Well, I mean, my only.
Sure, and I think Amy did a good job explaining the reason why we don't propose a lot of hourly solutions is because what happens is that you start getting the snowball effect, and then people like James or just general people spend an extraordinary amount of time trying to fix smaller issues that snowball into a larger problem, right? So that's 8 to 10 hours a week that James was working on it. I mean, even at a minimum cost, let's just say something so minimum that's outrageous. Let's say it's only $50 an hour. You're looking at maybe $500, $200-300 a week, and then you surpass the cost that So in the last 15 years of being with Corp Tech, we did do the bucket of hours before. We would sell you about 100 hours up front, and you just kind of use them as you go. But one of the big problems that we had with that was that customers always felt like the only time that they got attention from us is when they had an issue, and that's true. But the issues were never totally getting fixed because no one was monitoring it afterwards to make sure that there wasn't a bigger problem, that it wasn't something that was actually happening. And I think a great example of that is that device that you guys spent a lot of money on, that Barracuda device. That backup is not cheap. And you guys spent a lot of money on it. Same thing with that server. And for the monthly payment that we offer, all those devices and all those investments that you guys have put forth will all be taken care of correctly, and not sporadically.
Well, we should have paid the money up front to have it installed correctly to begin with, and we did not. We cheaped out, and we had it pieced together and did what we did. Once it's installed.
I mean, that's part of my question is, if the system, for lack of a better word, is screwed up right now, and we don't maintain it, we don't take care of it, just trying to do a slight maintenance program is only gonna move the ball down. It's just gonna move it down the road, and then we're gonna have a big crash. I mean, the way I look at it, you have to have some kind of some kind of maintenance that's being done on a regular basis, someone that's monitoring it and looking at it before we have the big problem. That's, I mean, if this is critical information for the city, I mean, I think kicking the can down the road, you know, I'm not saying that going with corporate tech is the right choice. I'm not saying yea or nay, but I'm saying we need to do something that's gonna maintain the system. What that is, I mean, I'm just saying that I don't think you can just say, I wanna pay an hourly rate and have them come in every time there's an emergency, cause one of the times it's gonna be an old crap moment.
Yeah, I mean, you could do, let's say, you know, whether it was twice a year or quarterly or whatever we felt comfortable with. I'm just still trying to figure out what the rate's gonna be at, you know, I can't get past the retainer if that's, I mean, what,
You're looking at
$900.
900?
this one that we're talking
Yep.
Oh, further down.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have, do you guys have other companies that we could use for referrals that we could speak with?
References.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Amy, I can get you those tomorrow. If that's fast enough, I can get you them tomorrow morning. And then you guys can call on them.
Yeah, can you guys
Okay.
keep helping us out until the council makes a decision?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I've sat on the same shade chair. I'm a first responder myself, and I know how cities are. But I can tell you that this has helped not just my city out, but we've helped out a lot of people in really bad positions. And usually it's because what happens is that people put, you know, the technology in front of taking care of the technology. And they get the great stuff. They spend a lot of money on this stuff. But the problem is, though, is there's also maintenance. There's things that go along with it that's a real thing. You know, it's just like buying a new car. You just don't buy a new car and then just not take care of it. You know, you don't take the bulb out of your check engine light because you don't want to see your check engine light come on. You know, you want to be in front of that stuff before something really happens. So, and when it comes down, you know, to the cost, there are things that we can do to work on the cost a little bit. The service plan that we gave you gives you guys 5.5 hours a month for on-site support. So those 5.5 hours are billable for, like, let's say if you have to set up a new computer or install some new software or whatever, just kind of your day-to-day IT stuff. Those 5.5 hours we give you, that's for that on-site support. We do have a plan that doesn't come with any hours. So it'll be a little cheaper on a monthly basis, but then every visit that we go on site for, there's a time and materials charge for that. So we can send that price over too for you, but you know, we thought we'd make sure that we kind of give you a good bid so that you're not going to be looking at spending more than what's in front of you right now. Because usually, 5.5 hours, that's some good time. That's not just a little bit of time. That usually handles a lot.
Yeah, I'd like to see that other bid without the hours here.
Sure, yep.
Is some of this work done remotely? You know, you talked about the on-site, and that's, I'm assuming, maybe from the get-go, and then once you set up the remote stuff, you're able to, you know, get in and do.
Unless the 5.5 hours on site would be setting up computers and stuff. Right.
They got Phil hooked up today over the phone.
Yeah, over the phone.
Yeah, they got,
Yeah.
they got me hooked up over the phone, it was pretty, to be honest, I've worked with IT people at the city of Pittsburgh, and it wasn't as efficient as this, but like I said.
They were very efficient.
Yeah, but it was just, like I said, one time, so.
Yep, no, I get it.
So the cost for this plan right now is at 15.8, is that what it is for the year?
For the year, is that what you calculated? Yeah.
A lot of money. we've had, you know, I don't know what we spent in the past, but
Nothing.
it's, yeah.
And that's the problem.
Very minimum, but not, it's not the
It's
problem.
not.
It's led
Because
to, okay,
Because before, we did not have a network,
right,
really.
you didn't have a network, you didn't have backup, the backup is not working because nobody's been maintaining it or done anything with it.
Well, but it wasn't
No.
Even,
set
and
up
companies
properly.
have IT, they hire IT, we've got two of them at UFC.
No, I've got 3 of them in our
Right.
company.
I'm not
And
saying
with
that,
the technology that we are dealing with, it's important to keep, it better be working correctly.
once you get it,
It needs to
But we
be
have to do
working.
some kind of maintenance,
once you get it set up and it's working properly and it's all configured correctly to where it's supposed to work, at that point, you run into very little issues with the network, right? So once you get to that point,
Till you
I
get
mean,
a bug, or till someone gets a phishing email,
Yeah.
clicks
right, but
on it.
that's why we have all of our ransomware and our antivirus and all those things to kind of, and the firewall to protect against those things. If they're configured correctly, we're not gonna run into a lot of issues. There are gonna be times that you need to call people in, absolutely, I don't think it's, I think,
See, I thought that was part of the reason to go to the government one. Like, I felt like we were sold on that in order to jump up to that next level.
That's just our
A level of what? I'm sorry, it's so hard to hear the phone. Well, a level of what? With the office, with the 365 government edition.
I thought it had something to do with the police department, like based on the things that they were doing, getting us up to that, whatever government level, unit, that's why it was proposed.
Like security kind of stuff you're talking about?
That's what I feel like. I'm not an expert in this, but they made it sound good,
Okay.
and that.
the police is.
Yeah,
totally
and,
separate.
like
They have to
Christina
have
was
their
saying,
own
I've been,
encryption, Have secure connection with the BCA, which has nothing to do with our network. They
No.
can still be on our network, it's just like a VPN that connects directly to the
BCA.
right,
Mhm.
so what happens, you guys, just so everybody kind of is on the same page here, so ransomware has to be usually introduced like 90% of the time by a user, right? So it's gonna come in with something called a phishing email, and that phishing email is gonna either have a hyperlink or it's gonna have an attachment. It's gonna have a return email address on it, and a lot of these things will sneak by your firewall. They'll sneak through Office 365. They'll sneak through a lot of spam filters, and what happens is when the user clicks on that, it will sit inside your system for days, weeks, months, and get as much information as possible. Okay, and once it has enough, then it starts encrypting, and they're not stealing your data. Your data is not disappearing. Your data is not being sold anywhere, right? They don't physically have your data. What they've done is they encrypted it, and that encryption then is very hard to undo without paying a ransom. And back 7 years ago, 5 years ago, when stuff really started hitting hard, I would call them ethical hackers. You pay them, you would get your encryption code. That encryption code would release that information. Nowadays, anybody with internet connection can send a ransomware, a WannaCry virus, and that doesn't mean they have the skill set to restore that encrypted data. So, there's a lot of fail safes in a solution like what we're doing here. This isn't, just a maintenance. This is a back end security package as well too, because we're monitoring your firewall real time, meaning that let's say all of a sudden we see an unauthorized IP address, and we call it's in the industry, it's called a brute force attack, that's pinging your firewall nonstop. And a government, yes, you're more likely to probably pinged as a government facility than the Walgreens down the street, right? It's just the stuff that you guys have and how important it is, and you don't want your name to get out there on the media that something happened to your data, right? So they know that you might actually pay. So we look for these things called brute force attacks, and it's this continuing
paying
thing that
anybody
is
anything.
outside your firewall. And when we see that, we can shut it down.
Stuff like that, you have all your information, it might be a day or two past.
Well, I think it's quite a bit to take in.
That's why the backup to your recruiter by staying down is eye-opening. right? That Barracuda device is supposed to have a retention policy on it and revision policies, so your data gets spread out over time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. So like, let's just say hypothetically, I'm gonna make up names here, but Steve's got ransomware on his computer, doesn't know it. Well, Barracuda's now been backing up that system, right? That ransomware is inside the Barracuda now. But with the credit revision policies, you can go back 2 or 3 months and find clean data that doesn't have ransomware embedded in it. And you can do a full system restore from there.
So is there a guarantee in a some sort of a insurance policy against any sort of issues like that with going with this $900 a month?
Insurance, like.
Well, I
Like
don't know, we
crypto
get hacked,
insurance,
somebody's saying they want $1 million to get our stuff back, you know, all the stuff you were just describing. In the event that
no,
happens
so
while under contract
Well,
with
with
your
us-
company,
Yep, so we have a limited liability insurance inside the terms and conditions. I don't know if you guys all have the paperwork in front of you, but I can send over all this stuff, but, yes, we're insured for that. So for the.
But I wonder-
But they also
Are you
do crypto
talking-
insurance, so as a company.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what he's talking about. Are you talking about your guys's, because as a city, state government agency, especially with fire and EMS with records, your crypto insurance that you guys already have in place, is that what you're talking about? And if so, is that because we wouldn't know your insurance policy that you already currently have, that maybe James would have set up? I don't know if that's what you're asking.
I'm referring to, you know, you were going on a sales pitch there about how bad things are gonna be and how the end of the world can happen and down that rabbit trail. And I'm saying if that happens while we're contracted with you, what is your company going to do for us?
Well, we're gonna do everything we can. Like, absolutely everything.
For free?
I mean, we've done it for, Friends Footwear, a doctor facility, I think they're on Shakopee, and they got hit with it. And, yeah, we had to recover them from nothing. So, yeah, I mean, and yeah, so, and I think you were talking about our insurance, yes, we're insured. So we have the limited liability insurance, it's all inside the terms, I don't know verbatim. But our customers don't get to that point. Like, we don't see that happening. We see a user go down because the user's got the ransomware on the computer, we can isolate that device. We can isolate that instant. Right? We're not reactive, we're not a reactive IT company, we're not waiting around for your call to tell us, hey, I might have ransomware. We're picking up the phone and calling you. We're saying, hey, we got Steve's computer, his files went from 5 gigs from yesterday to 20 gigs today. Things are being encrypted for sure, we're locking them out.
Just to chime in a little bit from, my dad does something similar to this he has done this for big hospitals and currently does it for community college. When it comes to this phishing stuff, that from what I understand, they are pretty reactive. If someone would click on phishing, they're pretty quick on it to isolate that instance in most cases particularly from what my dad does. That is pretty much what they do. They're very active. They monitor that a lot because he handles phishing stuff, like phishing emails and stuff. You get like a professor or someone that clicks on that not knowing, and the moment they do that, based on the software that they use, they can grab that within seconds.
Yeah, the software we actually have can actually, let's say one of your devices disappears. I don't know, if we do cover like a squad car or something like that, and one gets broken into and the computer's stolen, we can actually annihilate that device remotely. Right, so there's a lot of capabilities we have. We actually, a part of our sale process with Amy, we included KnowBefore, which is a phishing testing email. So before we even get to that point of somebody saying, hey, this might be phishing, or they don't know what phishing is, and they click on it, and we have to do something, there's an instant, we'll send out fake phishing emails to your end users to test them, to see who's going to be the one that clicks on the button the most.
Yeah, we do training.
so that we can
almost,
train them and educate them on what they're doing.
Where I work at, we actually generate emails to see if people click on them, so. But,
City of Pittsburgh used to do that a lot too.
yeah.
Well, I'd like to see that upgraded or updated contract that you can send out, and then, then we can probably make a little bit better decision after we get that and have some other numbers in front of us and look at these other pieces. But I do honestly appreciate everything you've done for us in the last couple of weeks to get us up and going and helping fill out and stuff like that. I mean, that means a lot to us that you were there for us and helped us get over that rough patch, so.
Yeah, of course. No,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Any burning questions? Are we ready to sign off? Okay. All right, thank you very
All
much
right,
for,
guys, thanks a lot.
All right,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
okay, let's move on to committee updates. Sibley East Community Ed.
Oh, yeah, we had a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Cities Community Ed, we talked about, programming that's gonna be coming up, finally starting to see some stuff happening, still being precautions and stuff like that, there's a few things coming up. Talked about Green Isle, getting out of the agreement, did not talk about pricing, about what that looks like at all.
Specifically.
Just talked about more communication, more, transparency and stuff that's going on. Discussion about, bringing more activities in, more offerings, that sort of thing, what type of offerings we thought. Brought up maybe inviting, more diverse members to the group, because there were, really not a lot of diversity there, and based on our population, there should be, some there, and, there was a nice discussion about that for a while. Other than that, Rich?
You've hit on most of the bigger topics.
Yeah, and then I think, next month we'll meet again, so, and I'm not sure how often this group meets. I think they had a long break for
I
quite
think
a
they did,
while.
yeah.
The way it sounded,
Like
but now
most
it was
committees.
last month and this month, or the, monthly, I think, I don't know for how long, or if it'll continue to be monthly or what, I don't know. She also had, a Google Meet regarding the meeting, so I would imagine that if anybody wanted to,
Listen.
join or listen in, they're more than welcome to do that, so I'm not sure where she posts that information.
I don't know, she didn't share the Google Meet stuff with me.
Yeah, I think there was one member that was potentially gonna join that, so I don't know if that was, she thought past, just that member, opening it up, but that's something that we could maybe post on our, somewhere. Made public, so, all in all, a good meeting and looking forward to activities again, I think is the main part, getting people out there doing things.
The Parks Committee met on Monday. I was via phone, but they basically appointed some members, basically said at the next meeting they'd go out and tour a lot of the parks. There was a little bit of discussion on the dog park and potentially if that might fall under parks, and I think that was about what I recall. I don't know if you guys.
Still, probably lukewarm acceptance of the dog park at this point, but I think, if that, yeah, well, I think
If that,
there's a couple of vocal ones that really are opposed to it, but I think they're outnumbered at this point. But
I think it takes a lot more than what everybody, the idea is great, but it's gonna take a lot to maintain.
yeah.
And I think that's the piece that I suppose they're hesitant about.
Well, I think they don't think, the naysayers don't think that the city should be involved very much at all, or if any, in maintaining. They think there should be an association or a group of dog owners that use it that should police it and take care of the park.
Yeah.
They're getting the, you know, that
I think
group.
they're concerned about the, the cost of having Kirby involved with having
Right,
to maintain
right.
the grounds and
Mhm.
what takes place in there and.
Right, we already mow up there,
Yeah,
so there's
Yeah.
not an added.
Yeah, I mean, I get that part, I guess the piece that I can throw in with the same way with about Sportsman's Park or any of our other parks is not everybody uses every park.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, so it's the same kind of thing,
Wow.
that everybody's gonna use that.
Yeah.
Well, if they actually, if they did get an association or a club together and would do the actual, the cleaning of the area, not the mowing.
But the day-to-day stuff.
Right, it would be
Yeah.
more acceptable, but that's the whole point is, if you don't have an association or some kind of club together that's gonna take on that, it's gonna fall to the city.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Well, I think the
absolutely.
main thing is signage, right, to educate
Well,
for when people go out
You
there,
could-
and the other thing is gonna be peer pressure. And that's what's gonna promote other people picking up after their dogs.
Well, you almost have to provide the tools.
do.
You do.
The bag
Or
grease.
have
no,
different
you
bags.
would have to do that, but they,
Well, what we could do, particularly what my department could do, given I do citations and stuff like that, what we could do is form an association, put the signage and stuff like that, and if they do not keep it up, we cite the association after X amount of time. We could, maybe, I don't know if there'll be any legal ramifications if they don't follow it, if they get cited X amount of times, but we could more or less put them in a position where they have to do it due to, I'm not saying threaten them, but it's like, look, because one of the major issues I can see is people not picking up the dog excrement and
There
stuff
wouldn't
like
be an
that.
association, I don't think. after
Yeah,
the
we'd
law.
have to form an association
Yeah,
first, which we
form
don't have.
yeah, that's,
Mhm.
Telling me you're gonna
That's
find
not
me,
bad.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
And I can see their concerns, because that's the whole reason why we're trying to do the dog park, is because nobody's picking up themselves.
And-
At other
Sportsman's Park.
places.
At the
Mhm.
baseball
Or
field,
trail.
yeah.
the trail's pretty bad.
But if
Mhm.
you have the bags out there, you have the garbage can out there, and you have the peer pressure of the other people that are out there at the
Right.
same time, that's the best you can hope for.
Yep.
And it's not gonna be 100%,
That's right.
but hopefully it'll be better than other areas where they're just by themselves,
Right.
you know, I don't know.
Piggybacking on Phil's comment, one way we could enforce, the care of the dog park is, I suppose we could have it televised. And if somebody
That's what I
doesn't
would
pick up
say.
after their dog, we actually already have an ordinance on the books
Mhm.
Yeah,
that covers that.
that's true.
Mhm.
And they could be cited for that.
so yeah, camera.
Could also.
Camera out there be,
We have
be a
some
big
extra
thing.
Well,
cameras
there's
here.
internet right out at the wastewater treatment plant, so it's not like
Mhm.
Could
you
you
couldn't have it.
detach that, actually, that probably sounds a lot better than trying to form association, if we could do that.
We've got about 5 extra cameras upstairs.
What if there was a fee, and so, we do the license, and basically you add on a little, a little tag on there, or a little notch that says, you're approved to go to the dog park, and now you
Oh.
charge $5 or $10 extra.
But then you're gonna have somebody to watch the police.
That is not gonna happen.
I'm just-
I mean, no.
But now they're paying for the labor to clean it.
Only when they come
Like
in.
they already are.
It's just gonna be peer pressure.
I'm just looking for the honest folks.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Anyways,
Reach on us, folks.
motion to adjourn?
Wait.
Never
You're
mind.
the cemetery.
Cemetery
person.
committee.
Update. Craig.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk to the customers out there.
Yeah.
No rebuttals. I think a lot of it we just talked about was, the funding of the park or the cemetery. It's not a parking anyway.
They're kind of parked there.
Why?
It's different.
Somehow I got wrangled into being the chairman out there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, big achievement over here. Most of the stuff that we went through and covered was trying to find, and one afterthought, Amy kind of was talking with me about, is to find an association with
goodwill donations type of stuff to help pay for our infrastructure and pay for stuff like that.
Pay for our lawn mowing. That's the
Yep.
biggest expense out there. We don't sell enough plots and not enough columbariums to. We'd have to charge quite a bit to actually balance our budget. Our budget's about 10,000, not that big in reality, but we only bring in about 3,000 with sales and things for the cemetery. So we are short. But if you had an association, people would be more willing to donate to a cemetery association that may sell wreaths or something at Christmas time, flowers around Memorial Day, and just ask people. Have that association separate, kind of like the ambulance association, raised money for uniforms and things all those years.
Can they do gambling? That's where the money's at.
Yeah, boy.
Gambling for the cemetery?
Heck yeah! Do it for everything else.
Is it possible to do fundraising? Because as the historic committee was talking about, as I mentioned earlier today with them, is it possible we could do maybe like fundraising with like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or anything like that?
That would be a good thing for the cemetery association if we could get someone to form one to
Okay,
do
so
fundraising.
So we would still have to, I'm just trying to maybe avoid maybe doing that where like we could get, because granted I'm gonna be in charge of getting the headstones and stuff, I might be able to, given my experience doing fundraising for nonprofits, I might be able to finagle something that we could maybe do that with like the groups that are out here, but that, I guess it might be easier just to do an association and go that
And
route.
have them get the nonprofit status.
Right.
Hey, maybe they even get their own lawnmower and somebody,
Friends of the Public Cemetery.
someone who just likes being out and.
There's a lot of communities that have cemetery associations
Sure.
that help for those.
Do that, I was
Costs.
aware of that, so, never mind then, scratch what I said.
And have to, for the city to dedicate one person to do all the lawn mowing out there, we already do that. The only reflection that I have is the other public cemeteries that I'm involved with, they're not small as Arlington, so you can't quite compare for what their budget is.
Well, at some point, it's gonna be sold out, and then you're
And then you
left
just
with-
put money in.
Then you're there,
Yeah,
you're done.
that's where I'm like, give it up for free, just get somebody to take it and. Yeah, the church would maybe grab a hold of that thing and take it over.
I don't know.
There should have been a perpetual care fund.
There
There still
is, and
is.
that's to purchase when we run out of plots. There's more land out there, that's to expand the cemetery.
And some was used for the columbarium also, quite a chunk of that. So,
And a percentage of each plot, every time we sell a plot, I think it's like a 65-35 split goes in, something like that, don't quote me on that, but goes in
To
to,
the
some of it goes into the perpetual, so that we can expand our cemetery when the time comes.
The problem with perpetual care funds, if they're handled properly, is that they're perpetual because you're not supposed to
dip into that.
expend principal.
right,
So you work on the income, and of course, we all know what the interest rates have been. So there's very little income.
very little.
Very little.
Did they raise the rates on that then?
They did,
200 to 400.
but like I said, we've sold one plot so far this year,
Right.
so raising it a couple $100 it was raised, yeah.
I did have a caller call about when they raised the plots, it was somebody that didn't live in the cities, city, lived right outside, and
They'd be non-residents.
they'd be a non-resident, and they said they thought it was not fair for Arlington people that lived here all their life and,
Just
you know,
aren't
bought their
citizens.
groceries here and everything, and then when it come to buying a plot, they had to pay $200 more. Well, I kindly didn't agree with them, I said, well, yeah, but the money that's there to
Cut the grass either.
to cut the grass is put in by city residents, and so really, they had a pretty weak argument, I feel.
I know other places, it's almost an $800 to $1,000 bill more if you
Oh, yeah.
directly live in
Oh, yeah.
that city.
Yep,
And a lot of other base places, it's $1,200 for a plot.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
No, it was reasonable, even when it was raised, I mean, when we were
Yeah.
talking about it, it was.
600 and 400
600
and
and
600 for a
400.
non, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, any other open discussion, any discussion items anyone wants to bring up? If not, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Is that Mr. Sharpie and Mr. Morgan? Motion by Councilmember Sharpie, second by Councilmember Morgan to